Hi everybody, I can see a couple of people joining. I'm just setting up and going to give people a few minutes to arrive. So we'll probably start in about 5 minutes. So make yourselves comfortable, make yourself a cup of tea or whatever drink you fancy, and we'll start shortly. You'll notice that there's a chat room, so if you want to ask questions and make comments, you can enter into the chat room, or you're equally welcome just to watch. So for those of you watching this back as a video, there's probably going to be 5 minutes or so of setting up and waiting for people to join live before I start the session, so you might want to skip forwards a little bit. And for those of you joining us from around the world, big warm welcome. The sadness that I have about this platform is I don't get to see and hear you. So if you do want to join in the chat room, you're welcome to leave comments. As you're joining, it would be nice to begin with a check-in. So perhaps you could write one word, how you're feeling now, and where you are joining this live stream from, because I believe we have many countries represented on this e-course, which is really exciting. So I love the idea of being able to connect so many people doing this kind of work all over the world. So if you want to enter the chat and leave one word about how you're feeling now and where you're joining us from, that would be lovely. So I am currently in East Sussex in the UK, in a very tiny village called Firle, and we're just about to have sunset, so you might see the light change here. I can see some names. Hi Karen, Michelle and Nidhi. Hi Elspeth. So if anybody wants to check in and tell me how you're feeling. Oh, tired from Canada, excited from Brighton. Cape Town, fantastic. How are you feeling, Michelle, today? Nidhi, also in Cape Town, privileged. Lovely. I think we'll just give a couple more minutes for people to continue to join, and then I'll begin officially. Hi, Toronto, Canada, fantastic. This is lovely. I think we'll have quite a lot of people watching this after, so also a big hello to you, because I think we'll have participants from many different time zones. I hope you're all well. I don't know if you'll be able to see this chat on the video, I hope so, but we're just checking in how people are. So it's just 10:04, so I'm going to begin our session today. Welcome everybody. This is part of the MUSICDARE programme, which stands for Music in Creative Detoxification and Rehabilitation. And Partners for Youth Empowerment is one of the partners on this programme, which is run by University of Macedonia in Greece. So we've come together to explore how music can help people in recovery from addiction. And what I'm going to go through today is a little bit about Partners for Youth Empowerment, PI for short, our methodology for working. I'm particularly focusing on how you can create safe space in a group, because I think this is something that's relevant to all of us, being part of groups or working with groups in whatever setting. So people who are entering the chat, it will be really interesting to also hear a little bit about you and what you do. So if you could explain maybe in one sentence something about what you're doing in life or your work now, that would be fantastic, just to get a flavour of who's online. So I believe we have people from diverse backgrounds, people who've experienced or experiencing recovery, people who work with music, facilitators, facilitators, educators, musicians. So it's lovely to hear a little bit about you. So the goals for this part of the course are to increase your understanding of how music and creativity can create safety in a group. Because when we feel safe in a group, we can take risks to express ourselves, to learn and try new things. And in order to sort of move forward in life, we need to be able to do that. To add to your toolkit of activities to use with groups, so I'm going to try and give a flavour via online medium of what we did in a live version of this course, which was face-to-face over 7 days. So I'm going to refer to some resources that you can look at, and then what I'm going to be asking you to do in the assignment is to reflect on actual experiences and perhaps to try something out. So you're going to build your toolkit to work with groups. And also just to share a bit about the PI methodology for structuring an effective beginning to a group session, because when things begin well, as a facilitator, you have to put in much less energy and the group kind of manages itself, so it makes things really easeful. So that's what we're going to be looking at today, and also through the assignment and reading through the course pack. Oh, I can see some people introducing themselves. This is fantastic. What a brilliant diversity of people. Great. I wish I could get you all in a room talking to each other so you could share some of your practices as well. A little bit about my background. So I'm one of PI's team of facilitators, and I've been working with PI to help share this model with people who are working in Greece, UK, France and Spain. And I first met Charlie Murphy, who's one of the founders, who's sadly passed away now. He's one of the founders of PI, together with Peggy Taylor, in 2007. And I went on a course because I was working with a group of international young people. 8 were from the UK, 8 from Nepal. And I've been working with them for 6 months on an exchange. So we've been working with communities in Nepal and in the UK. And the young people were doing some fantastic work across barriers of culture and language. And I really wanted to facilitate the group in ways that would remove some of those barriers even more. So to use some theatre, to use some music, to kind of cut across the language barrier. So I found this course that was being run by Lifebeat, which is an organisation Charlie set up with Lucy Six here in the UK that also uses the same methodology as a basis. And I just came away really inspired. I loved it. We were singing, we were dancing, and I tried it out straight away and it had great effect. So long story short, I ended up working with Lifebeat and using a lot of this methodology in other work. So I've also worked in international development with adults, and I think that it's very effective and fun way to be part of a group, whether you're learning something formal or whether it's a therapeutic group or if it's empowering young people. So really excited to share some of this with you. One thing that is really nice to do at the beginning of a session to create safe space is to make a bit of a community agreement. And welcome everybody who's joining us and introducing themselves. Fantastic. So when we make a community agreement, you probably do some similar things in your work if you work with groups, but we like to offer some that we know work really well. So these are, first of all, no put downs of self or others, which I love because it's challenging. So UK culture, where I grew up, people from the UK might recognise this, especially from the north. We tend to make fun of each other a lot, especially when we like somebody. But it's the best way to cut somebody off if they're trying something new is to sort of put them down or make fun of them when they're in that learning, that tender kind of learning zone. So it's a reminder to sort of remove that from our culture of interaction. And the put downs of self, I think for me it comes up every time I try something new, perform, give an online session, because this is the second one I've ever done, so I was terrified about the technology and I could hear my inner voice going, it's gonna go wrong. But it's really powerful to remind yourself that inner critic's naturally going to happen, and just to sort of ignore it or put it to one side. To listen well, to share your reflections, and I think that's especially good when you're working with diverse groups, because you might have people with different levels of experience or ease with the material that you're looking at. But to remind everybody that each person's perspective and knowledge is really valuable, can really help people to open up. And also to make the agreement to participate fully. So that's not everybody has to join in the same way. It's to allow people to be in their zone of learning, whatever that looks like for them, so they can monitor if they don't want to jump in to a certain degree. Because perhaps for them that would be too much of a risk, but to also remind people that it's okay to push themselves and feel a little bit that edge. So I usually present this to a group and then invite the group to make their own agreements and add to it. So everybody who's in the chat, would you like to add any agreements today for our interaction today? As I think online spaces are particularly interesting in a different way that people interact when you can't see each other face to face or hear each other, and you're just able to chat in the chat room, and perhaps some people choosing to watch rather than be in the chat room. So would you like to add any agreements today? Feel free to add them into the chat. And while you're thinking about that, I'll just explain a little bit more about what Partners for Youth Empowerment does. So it's a charity registered in the UK and a not-for-profit registered in the US. And it was founded by two inspirational people, Charlie Murphy and Peggy Taylor. And they put together a lot of different practices that they've come across over the years, from Paulo Freire, from positive psychology, from experiential education, from coaching, from arts. Oh, these are really great agreements. I can see: be kind to self and each other, and speak and chat only from your own experience. That's great. So not generalizing, but speaking from the I. I like that. I will remind myself to do that too. And so it's lots of things that Peggy and Charlie were experimenting with in North America, running youth programs that they put together into a model of working. And this model of working can be used for a short session for an hour, for a program of sessions, or that are running long term, or for a kind of residential experience. It's all applicable, and it really works. And Pi now has partners, mainly youth organisations, schools, arts organisations around the world, and is sharing this model in different ways. So Pi runs experiential arts-based facilitation training. So we kind of try out all the activities so people can feel them and feel how they work for them, and then apply them to their own settings. And there's about 30 partners in 15 countries, and it's kind of growing all the time. Michelle, thanks for adding that about be honest and respectful. I like that. So some of the partners, I can't remember them all: Greece, Spain, Italy, UK, South Africa, Uganda, Canada, US, India, Korea, Brazil, Jamaica. So it's kind of a very global organisation, and it's about sharing. And it's built on about 20 years plus of experience. And I just love to show you a short video which has some nice images, and it's just a flavour of Pi's work. So let me see. Hopefully the sound will work. If there's any technical difficulties, I can send a link to the video later via email. But here we go, it's called Light the Spark in Youth. Okay, so that just gives you a brief flavour. Hopefully it worked for you and you could see that video. Like I said, if there's any issues, I can always send it on after. But basically, Pi works through training people in this methodology, and then so an example of the scale is in this is 2017 numbers actually. In 2017, Pi and Pi Partners trained over 5,000 practitioners. Here's a few images of training. So this was one in Greece with Greek teachers, and I believe that the Greek education system is even more rigid than the one we experience in the UK. So these teachers were really interested in how, in all their different subject areas, they could bring in a bit of creative facilitation to make their classrooms feel safer and more conducive to learning. This was in Spain. This was the first training we did in Spain, using some music to help the group come alive. Spain again, and then in turn these practitioners went and reached over 200,000 young people. So it sounds like it's quite youth oriented, our work, but it's so applicable to adults and anybody in any setting, because I think for me, creativity, and especially music, rhythm, movement, is something that's so universal to all of us. And the Pi model is an 8-day youth camp, which also involves adult volunteers. So about 50 young people, usually teenagers aged 14 to 18, and then about 25 adults. There's a high ratio of adults to young people for lots of informal support, lots of creativity. So there's some big ideas underpinning this model of working, so kind of 4 pillars, and they're quite simple but quite profound, and when I really thought about them and embraced them more in my work and my life, I could see some big changes happening in terms of the ease and sort of the way I thought about work and life merging together a bit more, because it was bringing creativity and heart connection with people more into my work. So the first one is we are all creative, and I think a lot of us don't feel creative a lot of the time, even if we work in an area professionally that is creative. But certainly in my country, we're quite separate from our creativity, and we see arts producers, professional artists, musicians as the producers and the users of creativity, and the rest of society as consumers. But other places that I've travelled to are more in societies that are more in touch with creativity, where there's a singing culture and people sing just to celebrate or grieve. I think, particularly Western countries, we've become a bit detached from our creativity. But when you really embrace your own creativity as someone that works with groups, I found it's given me so much more confidence and freedom to share and to help my groups to share. The second is you don't have to be an artist to use the arts in your work. So you don't have to be a professional theatre maker to run some really successful activities using theatre, or a professional musician to use some song or rhythm activities. That's not to say that professional teaching artists don't have a really important niche, but that these things are accessible to all of us as people who work with people, and we can learn some simple activities to use to enliven our work, which is great. The third is that we all have a valid desire to be seen and heard, and you can see this in young children, in adults. But as soon as we aren't seen and heard in a group, we aren't recognised as kind of worthwhile members in what we're offering, people either shut down and withdraw or act out in some way. And that's part of our makeup as human beings from young babies. We want to be mirrored by our caregivers. If you smile at a baby and mimic its noises and faces, the baby instantly feels looked after and cared for. So it's to do with that real sense of care that's very innate in us. And the fourth is that the arts are a doorway to the inner life. So that's a way of using your creativity to understand your experiences and externalize them and express them. So, for example, if poetry is something that you feel belongs to you and you're allowed to do it, that gives you just such a range of ways to express something that you're going through. It could be something positive, it could be something traumatic, and I've met teenagers on summer camps I've worked on that have been the most fantastic poets, but it's something they've just done for themselves, and perhaps they were daring to share their work for the first time, but they were really using it to process some difficult things that they were going through. And I think it's also a way to access your dreams and your imagination and your sense of possibility for yourself. So all these ideas are put together into the PIE model of working and creating safe space with your group. So the model that PIE uses used to be called the Creative Community Model. And the name has been changed to the Creative Empowerment Model, but it contains these ideas of coming together as humans through our access to the arts and our creativity, forming community and empowering ourselves. It's not therapy, but I think when people do feel that safety together and are making music, moving, feeling comfortable to be silly and playful, it creates those conditions, those relationships of trust, where therapeutic goals can be realised, and where you can transform and feel healed. And those of you that are working with groups that are perhaps going through traumas will know what I mean, and perhaps you've used some creative methods and seen the results. And I think, daring to share your creativity and your imagination instantly creates some safety, because you're taking those risks together, especially if you're doing something that's new and a bit risky for you. Maybe you're singing and you don't normally sing with other people, but you get a good response from those people. You've been seen and heard and acknowledged, like that's okay. That then becomes safe, and you can feel empowered to do more. And and express yourself creatively, and explore your inner life. And that helps to build confidence and resilience. And I've seen that a lot, especially with the teenagers that we work with. Because in the organisation I work with in the UK, Lifebeat, which uses a programme based on this model, we've been working with young people for a number of years now. So I know people that are now in their early 20s and out in the world of work that I met as teenagers, who are going through hard times, and just through having a place to come, a community to come, where they can explore their creativity and they do feel safe and they do feel seen and heard. I've seen how that really has helped their confidence and resilience, and was working with a young woman the other day, delivering a training, who used to be on summer camps, and she's now working as a teacher and doing fantastically in her life. And a big part of this model is also bringing together groups who are diverse. So that could be race, wealth, culture, anything, and trying to create spaces where, through creativity, you can share. And I find that incredibly powerful. And I was inspired to start a youth club in Brighton, together with an organisation called Hummingbird Project that work with young refugees. And we've called it Global Social Club. And we're trying to bring together young people from all different backgrounds to just share what they're about, and get to know each other and make friends and learn from difference. And we're using a lot of this model and creative activities. So here is a process map, which looks quite complicated, but I just wanted to share this with you because it's the idea of the creative empowerment model as an arc. And this could be applied to a programme that was a long-term programme with many sessions, a residential, so our summer camp model of 7 or 8 days kind of follows these steps, or it could be a 1-hour session in a school, or in a therapeutic community. But the first thing is a warm welcome. So that includes your room setup, being there ready, calm in yourself to sort of greet your group. So you're really meeting people where they're at and helping them to change their energy and feel safe as they come in. Group contract. So we shared a few agreements in the chat when people joined in. So that's really important, because you might have a group that you think know each other, or you think, oh, they're really polite, but everybody is different and has individual needs, and it's just a chance for people to actually state those and put it out there and put it into the collective consciousness and agree them. And it's also a brilliant tool to come back to. So if your group's having issues with dynamics, you can come back to your group agreements or your group contract and look at how it's going and what the effect of anything that's happening that's that's against the agreement, and make some solutions with the group. Then you might explore your relationship to yourself, others, the world, and that could be stages of an activity that you're going to run. So you might want to have a main activity, and then you need to just think about how to stage that, so you're building up that risk gradually to enable people. So you're going from yourself, others, to the world, or it could be looking at creating a performance together, but you need to do a couple of things to warm up first, warm into it with the group. And the last stage is celebration as a community, so it's a chance to kind of share some of the work, or and be seen and heard and supported and recognised and acknowledged. And there's some kind of closing, some kind of nice way to end, reflectively, or with an intention, or with gratitudes, or a checkout. It could be something very simple. So all of those stages can be gone through in a short amount of time. And there's a simple recipe for engaging people. It is the IPC, so that stands for imagination. So when you invite the imagination, and we can do this in lots of ways. It could be through visualization. It could be through a game. Often when we start trainings, we invite people to, when they enter the room, to the first thing is there's tables laid out with lots of art materials and craft materials, and the invitation is to make a name tag however you want, with collage or writing, or so we've had some quite sculptural ones in the past, but there's not a right or a wrong way to use your imagination. So that means that everybody can be successful at it. We all have an imagination, and when ours is invited, we're being really fundamentally welcomed into a group. So that leads to participation. And if you think back to formal education, often there's parts of a class where nobody puts their hand up because they're afraid of getting it wrong, so they aren't able to participate, or they fear looking stupid if they don't get the right answer. So that's when, if you're not getting participation, maybe it's too risky what you're asking the group to do, and you need to go back a stage, perhaps invite the imagination again in another way. And it could be as simple as telling people a story, painting a picture for them, or just asking something of them that is engaging their imagination, so that, you know, everybody has the opportunity to offer something. So when you engage their imagination, it makes participation easy, and people find it easier to commit to the process, whatever that might be, learning, therapy. Welcome to Christy, who's just joined us. Fantastic. Okay, so that's the IPC. So these are some tips of how to engage a group. So using rhythm. Often we wouldn't start a session. This is kind of more lecture style because it's online, and we're a bit limited what we can do with the chat for interaction. But we love to start sessions with a body rhythm, which I'll come back to later. But you could start with a game, a stretch, something like that. But rhythm, as well as engaging the body, which is another point later, rhythm is something so fundamental to all of us, even if we don't see ourselves as musicians or drummers. It's in our footsteps, in our heartbeat, and it's a very good way to get a group just there in the moment together. Determining ways for the group to get quiet. So that can be an issue with adults as well as young people, but just a simple way that makes it just easy for you. And it could be a call and response phrase that you sing or say. It could be using an instrument. I have my bells that I really like, which is quite a quiet way to just get a group's attention back. It could be raising your hand, and we have a playful way of explaining this to young people where we ask them to imagine a string between the jaw and the thumb, so the mouth kind of naturally closes when you raise your hand. So you see someone with a raised hand and you just copy. So it could be a physical signal like that. start with a blank page. So if we're asking somebody to do an activity, for example, visual art, create something, rather than give them an example like a ready-made prototype, we often just start with this blank page. So the idea is that people's imaginations aren't going to be short-circuited by trying to create something specific. They can go into that realm of possibility of it could be anything. I mentioned warming the group up slowly, so thinking about your goals for your session and where you'd like the group to get to, but going at their pace and thinking about how to make it easy. Like facilitation is to make easy, from facile, I believe it comes from the Latin. So what stages, what mini activities can you do to help people warm up to the main point of your session? Keeping your intention in mind, so thinking about your goals, and behind your goals your intention for the group. So I was thinking about my intention for this session today, and I think it was to do with sharing a bit of this work and trying to inspire everybody watching live or watching the video back to try some of it out in the assignment, whatever kind of practice you do. So when you're clear on your intention, so things might go wrong, so I don't know, my video might not work or something, but when my intention's clear in my mind, it means that I can adapt and still give my group the experience that they're there for. Engaging the body, we mentioned, so we spend a lot of time in our heads, I think, in modern life, and especially because a lot of group settings sort of seem to follow the pattern of formal education, and breaking that and getting into the body changes our state instantly. So any games or movement activities that use both sides of the body, it's cross-lateral motion, so engaging both hemispheres of the brain, getting in a state for learning. Perhaps we're experiencing something difficult, going through grief or trauma or a moment of anger, and physically we can release and get into a different state. Mirroring, so lots of movement exercises or drama exercises can use mirroring. Also perhaps mirroring musically. And what that says to people is that I accept your ideas. You're watching a partner or the group copying you. It makes people feel really comfortable. Giving instructions quickly and clearly, so that just keeps the attention of your group and makes things flow. Tipping your hat to resistance, so always there's people going through their own stuff and they might not be into what the flow of the group is, what the activities you've planned are, and it's about sort of dancing with that rather than getting triggered ourselves, which is easier said than done a lot of the time, but just remembering to sort of flow with it, and it kind of makes it easier for everybody. Varying the size of groupings, so I really love doing stuff in pairs and then moving into bigger groups, to whole group, to individuals working on their own, and that can help people mingle, one to get to know each other, two, I think it gives people thinking time and allows different personality types who either really enjoy speaking in big group or really enjoy speaking in a pair or really enjoy time to reflect on their own, to play to their strengths and also come out of their comfort zone. And lastly, providing opportunities to perform. So it's a great chance to, once you've created that safety in your group, give people a chance to step up and be seen and be heard and be supported. So we are all creative. So I'd like you just to have a think for yourselves about the different ways that you have been creative today. It might have been, you might have played some music today. I don't know if there's anybody who has sung today, or your choice of clothing, or preparing a meal, or solving a problem. But I think it's integral to human beings, and when I was made redundant from a job with a charity that I loved, but it was a desk job, I just took this journey to explore everything that I'd wanted to explore, and started doing some forum theatre, and the change it made over my sense of possibility in the world, because I think creativity means the ability to sort of put your ideas out there into the world in different ways. And when you explore creativity from any of its broad definitions and feel more creatively confident, it just means you have that belief that you can make a change to your life, to your surroundings, your community. So I think this is really fundamental to us and also our work as people who work with people. Great, welcome Liv, who's joining from Mexico. Lovely. So I just wanted to think a little bit about ingredients to a good beginning in a group session. I'm sure you have all experienced a time when you've entered a room or entered a space and felt not welcome, and you've kind of shut down. And the reason beginnings are important is because we make judgments so quickly about people, about places, as part of our makeup as human beings, that it's hard to get back the kind of willingness and the good feeling if the beginning hasn't been good. So as a facilitator, I love it when I can get into a room or a space early before my group, because I've got time to kind of centre myself. And we've all got our different ways of doing that. I usually like to put on some music, set everything up. So if I want a clear space, if I'm doing lots of movement, if I want a circle of chairs, so everything's ready. So I'm calm, I'm happy, I'm in a good place to kind of offer that energy to the group, so they're coming into something. Name tags or an art tag. I mentioned the name tags earlier, but that's the opportunity to make a name tag using some art materials. Or with my youth club, I sometimes have a big roll of paper and everyone comes in and just draws a cartoon of themselves or of anybody else that they pair up to say who's there. It could be anything, but it's nice to have a simple art activity where people can arrive in stages and not be early and waiting and nothing to do, or not feel like they're late. So it also allows you to start with a whole group. And it also allows some gentle interactions between people. So they're sharing the scissors and they're having natural conversations, because it always feels a little bit awkward coming into a group for the first time. We mentioned the power of rhythm, so it's a fantastic way to start an experience with a rhythm, engaging with each other musically and also getting into your own body. An invocation is a lovely thing to have. So if I've got time, it's a nice way to sort of offer something to the group, like a gift of a poem or a song or a quote, that gives the group a kind of bigger sense of what we're going to be doing together. So it could be something quite inspiring and related to the journey that we're going to go on. A facilitator introduction, so that builds credibility and trust, and also it's great if you can share something from your own story that communicates with your group why you're passionate about what you're going to do together and why you care about it, so they can relate to you emotionally as well as professionally. So I try and steer away from doing too much CV and a little bit more about like me in a way, which is a bit vulnerable, but it also helps go a long way into creating that safety. Then introductions around the circle. So it's lovely to get everyone's voice into the room early, so it feels like it's a space that belongs to everybody, and not the facilitator. It's creating a sense of community. So it's nice to start in a circle everyone's equal, everyone can see each other, and give people a simple framework to introduce themselves. So it might be a couple of things. So today I asked people to say a word for how they're feeling and where you're joining us from. Hello Danny, nice to see you. Fantastic. But yes, a chance for everybody to speak. To share the goals is really important, so the group knows the intention of why we're here together, and if you can share them in such a way that links to things that they really want and need rather than what you're going to cover, it really helps people to resonate with the content of your session and really commit to it. Community agreements we mentioned before just helps to create a bit of safe space by everybody having the chance to state their needs and collectively agree those, a bit of a democratic system rather than having rules. And the name games are great because learning names is fundamental. Being able to call each other by their names creates a lot more sense of friendship and closeness, and removes that awkwardness a little bit of having to sort of ask and learn names all the time. Also, they can be physical, engage the body, they can be fun, interactive. So if I've got loads of time, I might try and do all of this, like if I'm running a day session, and if I've got an hour, I would cut it right down, but I would think about the intention of that group experience, and what would be really important ingredients to have. But I think for me, room setup, engaging the body in some way at the beginning, getting everyone's voice in the room, introducing myself, goals and agreements are really fundamental. Welcome Rebecca from Bristol. This is great. And guys, if you're joining late or if you're watching online later, we're going to have the video recorded, and I'll be sharing the link as soon as possible so you can catch up. So we talked about rhythm and body, and it's a great way to begin a group session. So I'd just like you to think about what effect does moving the body and using rhythm have on you. So I've been sat here stationary at my computer, sort of talking into thin air, imagining you all, but quite static, and I can feel that my energy is a little bit stagnant. But I find when I do things like rhythm and movement activities with a group, it also energizes me. It brings me quite a lot of joy, sometimes embarrassment, but then you're kind of on a level together, and you see the energy of the group come up. So I often use this in my work to sort of begin something, or if I need to change the energy or bring people together or kind of clear something out the way. So what I want to show you now is Charlie Murphy leading a body rhythm. And it's one option if you don't currently work with music. You could have a look at this rhythm online, and for your assignment, if you choose to, you could have a go at leading it with some friends or a group that you work with. So let's just have a look at this body rhythm. Hopefully this is all, oh no, sorry, technical difficulties, bear with me. So on Pi's website as well, we have loads of resources. So if you want activity resources, www.pyeglobal.org, there's a resources section and lots of videos of songs and games, and a couple of rhythms as well. So if you feel to, you can also join in where you're sat, or you can stand up, and just notice if it makes any difference to how you're feeling. So he's giving lots of affirmation to his group. hope you're seeing this video. Okay.
Before I get you started, if you could keep turning the group on
So I'm going to leave it there in the interest of time, but you're welcome to look it up. I'm hoping that it was okay for you to watch that using this streaming system. Let me find you guys again. Okay. So did anybody have a go at the rhythm while we were watching the video? And if so, how did you feel? I'm feeling a little bit energized and also slightly anxious in case nobody was able to see the video online and I was just in the corner chatting to myself and clapping, but that's okay. I'm all right with that. But I love body rhythms. I think I actually know a sum total of 4 rhythms only. And one of them is really complicated and was actually taught to us by 2 young musicians on camp. Great, Elspeth, glad you enjoyed it. I like imagining perhaps people in many different countries just doing a body rhythm. But yeah, I'm on a mission to learn more of them because they're such good fun, and it's also a chance to have a performative moment with your group, connecting to your body like you said, Jerry, and also connecting to the group like you said, Elspeth. Fantastic, Rebecca. Great. Yeah, so they're wonderful resources to have, and there's loads of them on the internet and a few on the Pi website as well. There's a lovely quote here about rhythmicity, which I've stolen from Peggy and Charlie's book, Catch the Fire. I'll give you the reference to this at the end. It's a bit of a manual with lots of activities and ideas, not just music and movement, but also theatre and visual arts as well, if you're interested in that side of things. So this is a quote from Henry Mayer, social worker and educator, about rhythmicity. It's almost impossible to dislike a person while being rhythmically in sync. Rhythmic interactions forge people together. Rhythmicity provides a glue for establishing human connections. I think that's really true. I think definitely agree with Nidhi. Body rhythms, amazing, empowering and fun. And you know, you can see it in a very quick time. It takes about 5-10 minutes to do one with a group. And I've got a friend called Eugene Skeef, who is a master percussionist, originally from South Africa, and he works with peace building as well, and he says that bringing people together to play percussion, it really makes conversations possible that wouldn't be possible if people hadn't had to get in sync musically, rhythmically, really listen, that kind of body listening to each other. And I don't know if you've come across an organisation called Musicians Without Borders, and they do great work all over the world, and a lot of it is also using rhythm. Because it's very simple. We don't actually need to take any instruments with us. We can use our bodies or simple instruments that are very accessible for people, and kind of re-establishing that interaction and that natural glue. And the other thing that I love doing and working with Pi and with Lifebeat has enabled me to sort of feel that confidence to do is using song. So like I said at the start of the talk, the culture that I come from in the UK isn't really a singing culture. We sing if we're religious. We sing possibly in school, and a lot of people that I know have been shut down, especially around singing, and told you can't sing, don't sing. And there's a lot of people that I know that love to sing in the shower, and I was one of those people. And then lately, it was in my adult life, started singing more in front of people, and then in the last few years using it in my work, and it's such a gift. It's such a gift. I know some of you who are online in the chat now work with choirs and know this feeling, but just that magical shivers on the back of the neck feeling when you're singing in harmony with a group. And it doesn't matter the quality of the song, it's more excuse me, it's more that feeling. That's lovely, Nadine, sharing about working with seniors and getting them drumming on the knees while sitting. We have some friends here in Brighton who are doing a project with music for people suffering from dementia. It's quite magical. Really reconnecting people with themselves and each other, I think, because music's so fundamental. It's one of the last things that we lose. So yeah, teaching a song, brilliant way to connect to people. And just wondering, yeah, what effect, just a bit of reflection, moment of reflection, what effect does singing or using your voice have on you? And what effect does it have on a group? And just reflecting to myself if I did sing today, because I do have the habit of singing to myself to cheer myself up or motivate myself. And so I think for me, it changes my state. Sometimes if I'm feeling down, to sing a song that for me has sad associations, it's that lovely cathartic feeling. And also singing with a group, something else. Like, I first moved to London in 2007, big city, didn't know many people, and in my area one morning I was going out to the shops and I could hear this most incredible singing, and I followed it, and it was a gospel choir. It was a community gospel choir, so it didn't matter if you were religious or not. And it was practicing in a local community centre and running classes, and I joined, and I was just stunned. The lady that ran it was amazing, and she would just come up to you and like squeeze you until you could make this sound. And I literally remember telling her that I could feel the hairs on my neck one time when it was just amazing harmonies, and she said that for her that was an experience of God. But I think it's also a universal experience, even if you're not religious, this magical effect of singing on a group and connection. So using singing in your work can be very powerful, but many of us have been slightly traumatized and shut down about singing, or perhaps don't come from a singing culture, or perhaps don't feel like we're good singers to offer that to a group. But I would like to share also the story of my friend Shola, because he is also a facilitator, and he can teach fantastic songs and give group great experience of singing together. But he was one of those people who, when he was at school, was told, you go over there, you're not joining the choir, please don't sing. And it was again through this work that he started feeling the confidence to teach songs and really enjoying singing. So I'm going to show you another short video of him, which you can also find on the PYE website. And he's teaching a song called Helele Mama. Sorry guys, bear with me a sec. This one.
Okay, so we're going to sing a song called Ellwand, which is from the Zulu people of South Africa, and it means hail to the mother. And the words of the song are hail to the mother. Okay, so there are 3 parts. The first part goes like this. The second part goes like this.
So he's basically taught all the parts, got everybody to repeat first the lyrics and then the melody. And then he separated people in parts and then putting it all together. And then adding a bit of movement. Great. I'm going to end it there. I love that song. And it's really nice to see Charlotte just loving his life while he's singing, and the group loving having an experience of singing as well. I was really brave the other day because my youth group that I mentioned earlier, it's quite a new group. It's been running since August last summer. And the young people definitely don't normally do singing, and I taught them a song, and it was a song from Trinidad and Tobago. It's a carnival song, but it's called "Walk in the Power." So we sing it a lot at camp because it's just such a good intention, and it's uplifting. And it kind of naturally makes you want to move with it. But anyway, so I sang it with this group, and there was one boy who at the start of the song, he was in the corner of the room with the beanbags on his head hiding, but we carried on and he did come out and join us. And at the end of that experience, one of the boys who's really into his heavy metal, he was like, "Can we sing Stairway to Heaven next week?" And I was amazed. But for me, it's been a bit of a journey to sort of feeling confident in my own singing, but I've literally spent my life collecting songs because I love singing, finding some songs that you really like, that are simple, that you really know and want to share, to just having a practice with some friends and working out the mechanics. Those of you that are choir leaders and got your skills down of kind of hand signals and how you make it really easy to teach a group, but there's some simple steps to follow of share the origin of the song and the meaning of the song, especially if it's in a language that's not your own. Get people to repeat the lyrics, call and response, first of all, with no melody, because sometimes people trip up over words and then it's a block. Then share the melody line by line. Share the parts, split people up into parts, sing it all together, and then you can play with it, adding movement or loud and soft dynamics. And yeah, I would love to actually continue to build my skills leading songs, because it's something that I enjoy so much. But I'm not professionally trained as a choir leader, but I have practiced and I've observed and I've been part of choirs, and now it's something that I feel confident I can share as part of my practice. So those of you who don't currently work with song, I would also challenge you, if you'd like to during the assignment, to perhaps try out leading a song, at least with a group of friends or colleagues, if not a group you work with, and just reflect on how it goes, because it is a wonderful experience. Okay, so why my PowerPoint's not working? Okay, so I just wanted to mention the assignments because we're coming to the end of our time together. I think the talk was actually billed at longer than it is, but I'm gonna finish at the end of it rather than continue on till 6. But what the assignment is, it's about reflective practice, because we love to work with the experiential learning cycle. So this is Kolb's model of how people learn. So we have an experience. If you take time to process it and reflect on it, when you have the experience again, you can work out how you want to implement that learning, and then it goes around in a cycle. So as people who work with people, it's great to have a chance to just reflect on some of our own experiences and put that into our practice. So it's just a short written assignment. I think I've given a word limit, but I just want it to be concise. It's more about you having a chance to reflect and get that learning for yourself than writing a lot. And then I'm going to send some feedback to you. So I'd like them by the 6th of February, and that's just to give me enough time to sort of mark them all. And give you some feedback by the 20th of February. But there's not a right or wrong here. It's just about sort of sharing some ideas. So it's nothing too academic or heavy. And part 3 is optional if you want to extend your learning. So part 1 is to reflect on your own practice or an experience that you've had. So I want you to think about a group either that you've worked with or are currently working with, or being part of, and it could be way back as a child or a teen or an adult even, but where there was a level of safety created and people felt comfortable to express themselves. So group situation where there's safety. And I'd like you to just briefly describe what was the situation, what type of group, what was it for, how did the experience begin? So we were talking about the importance of a good beginning. So particularly, how did it start off? What activities were used? What was the environment like? And what did the facilitator do or say that kind of helped that safety? And then part 2 is just exploring some tools from the PI model. So you can look through the PI chapter in the MUSICDARE course pack. And if you want to, you can, this is just extra because it's a very long video, but the whole 7-day seminar in Greece was taped. And there's also, if you're interested, on the PI website, pyeglobal.org, there's those activities that you can have a look at. But I'd just like you to go through that material and just see if there's any tools there that interest you. So make a list of a few activities and techniques. You don't have to make an exhaustive list, just the ones that stand out to you, that is going to help to create safety and ensure a strong beginning to a group programme. And I'd like you to just reflect on what's the purpose of these activities, so what's the intention behind each one, and which ones appeal most to you and why. So I notice in myself, even using multi-arts, that there's definitely things that I like more, so that means that I do them more. But obviously with our groups, we want to keep being diverse in what we offer, so it's really good to just notice sometimes which ones appeal to you and why, because it can help you also step outside your comfort zone to offer different things for your group. Just seen a question from Nidhi. So sharing the image of the creative community model process map. Yes, I can, and I also got it from Catch the Fire. I think I just took a little JPEG of it, but I'm sure I can share that with you by email. But yeah, it is in this book as well. So that's the assignment. It's got 3 parts to it. The first part 1 and part 2 are compulsory. So the idea of this course is everybody that attends the sessions live or watches them back and completes the assignments on time gets a certificate. So for this pie part, it's just to do part 1 and part 2, but I have added part 3, which is the most interesting part in a way, but it's optional because I realised that not everybody will have the chance to do this, but this is the kind of chance to practice and reflect on your practice. So you've kind of reflected on past experience, and I'd like you to just try something new. So it might be that you work a lot with this type of activity, and this is completely within your comfort zone, but see if you can find something that is a little bit new, or that you don't often do, or for you perhaps is a bit of an edge. And if you don't work with music or rhythm at the moment, find something that you feel would be good and useful or fun, and try it out. So it could be with colleagues, a couple of friends together, or it could be with a group that you work with at the moment. So from going through the material in part 2, you should have some ideas of some activities, or it could be an activity you find from elsewhere. And I really recommend having a go at leading simple body rhythm from one of those videos on the website. The one that we showed you before is one we often start a new group with because it's easy for people to get, because it's got the very square 1, 2, 3, 4 footstep at the basis of it, and people can just come back to the feet if they get lost. So the idea is try something new that is going to help your group begin well and increase safety and trust, and reflect on how it went. So I'm really interested to know how it went externally with the group. How did they feel and react? But also, how did it feel to you as a facilitator? You know, did it change anything in your experience of the group or your experience of yourself? And what did you learn from it? And what could you do next time as a result? And just to write a few words on that. But this part is optional. So I don't mind if you don't have time to do that, or you're just not into the idea of doing that. But I would use this course as an excuse to just take a risk and try something new. Because for me, that's what helped me most, was grabbing a group of friends together and trying to sing and trying to work out some songs that I really liked and really wanted to use in my work, and just see how they landed with people and where I was making it more complicated than it needed to be, because it really, really helped. Their feedback, but also my observations of just trying it with people. So this is bringing us to the end of the talk today. So here's some references. So pyeglobal.org, there's a resources tab with lots of videos. LiveBeat, who I mentioned, for those of you that are in the UK, is a youth organisation that was founded by Lucy Six and Charlie Murphy, who's one of the founders of PYE. And Catch the Fire is the book, which has kind of step-by-step activities. It's kind of a guidebook by Peggy and Charlie, and that's available on Amazon. Highly recommended. But most importantly, I'd like to just take a moment to sort of close well. So I'd like to invite you to just get really comfortable where you're sitting, get a really nice posture, and just notice how your body's feeling at this point in the day. And in your own time, just take 3 really nice, deep, mindful breaths. and just notice how that feels, if there's any difference. And it'd be lovely to do a checkout for those of you who are joining us live on the chat. If you could just share a word how you're feeling now, that would be lovely. I'm feeling relaxed. Yeah, relaxed. And yeah, I wish you were able on this platform to speak to each other and speak and see each other as well. But it's been lovely having you, and I've got a bit of a sense of a group of people out there doing brilliant work, and I'm really excited to read your assignments and hear a bit more about what you're all doing. Chilled, that's good, Layla. Inspired, great, that's lovely. Calm, lovely, Danny. Grateful and peaceful. This is really nice. Yeah, we run this course once before Christmas, and all of the students on it were from Greece, and I absolutely loved reading the PI assignments because I actually got loads of amazing ideas, some of which I've used with my youth group. So yeah, in the spirit of sharing, I'm really also looking forward to hearing about your practice and your experiences. Thank you, everybody. Fed, that's a lovely word. Gratitude. You're very welcome. Yeah, I'm very grateful for everybody attending live, and also if you're watching it back as a recorded session, hope you enjoy it. Thank you, Rebecca. That's lovely. I'm just going to give a few more minutes if anybody else wants to check out. Inspired and validated in my arts practice approach. Great. That's most people checked out. I will indeed share the process map for the creative community model, now called creative empowerment model. Is there anything else people need to be shared? You can access this video again online. Thank you, Christy. Thank you, Danny. And thank you, Karen. Thanks, Nidhi. Yeah, take care, everybody. Hope you have a wonderful evening and great rest of your week. And yeah, really looking forward to reading your assignments. Yeah, goodbye, everybody. Thanks, Elspeth. I hope your choir is going brilliantly, by the way. It was lovely meeting you in Brighton. Thanks, Michelle. Bye, everybody. So have a wonderful evening, and I really hope you enjoy the rest of the course. Thanks, Kai.